Now let's add this corner down here with this little passing siding. And this gets a little weird in the way that you do it. It takes a little bit of time, so stick with me. And then I think we'll jump over here and I'll show you how to put in these S-curves. Okay, so let's put in the passing siding. Let's zoom in to our workspace here. Drag that over a little bit. And I think we can lose layers for right now. Make that a little bit larger. Now the first thing we'll do is we'll put in our two number 6 left-hand switches over in this area here. So let's go up and grab a number 6 left-hand. And we know we want his angle to be at 0. So let's put in 0. All right. Now we're going to need 2 of them, the same orientation. So let's copy him and then let's paste in another one. All right. So let's drag this guy up here and we're going to put him up in this area right here. Now we want him to be the same distance from the wall as the switch up above. So let's zoom out. Let's zoom in on that switch. Let's take a look at that switch's X value. And its X value is 14 3/16. So let's copy that. Zoom back out. Come back down on this guy. And we're off a little bit, so let's paste that in. And we'll hit enter. Now we'll come back down here. Oops, went too far. We'll grab this guy, and we're going to place him down in this area here, I think. Somewhere in this area. Oops, let's grab him again. Now we want him to be the same distance, so we'll put that in. And now these 2 pieces of track should line up. Okay, let's zoom out. And let's put in this right-hand switch here. So we'll go grab a right-hand switch. And now we know we want it to be at 90 degrees. So we're going to type in 90. Hit enter. And we're going to drag him down somewhere in this area here. We'll line him up on this line. Go in a little bit so we can actually see. Actually, I think I'm going to move him back just a little bit. I want to get a little more room on that switch. So let's put him right about there. And you'll notice that here's the tunnel for the lower level. And so this area is going to have to be reworked. I'm not overly pleased with it. The same thing up here. I'm going to have to rework where it goes into the hidden track that leads to the staging track, but that's for another video. So let's put in our passing siding here, and what we're going to do is we're going to start with this outside track right here. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to grab a piece of flex. I'm going to pull it down and I'm going to cut it just about in half right there. And I'm going to drag one piece of track down here, and I'm going to drag the other piece of track over here. And then I'm just going to stretch them out because it just seems to make it easier for me to work with if I stretch them out. Okay, now we want to put a curve in here. And again, we have no idea what this curve is. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out the angle of the curve. Now we know this piece of track is going to be at 90 degrees. So we need to find this piece of track. And it's at 189.53 degrees. So once again, grab your pad and your calculator, write down 189.53, and then subtract 90 from it. And you end up with 99.53 degrees. And that is what our curve is going to be. So let's get a piece of flex. And we're going to say, if we select it properly, curve flex. And we're going to type in 99.53. And my minimum radius is 24 inches, and this is the main line here. So I'm thinking that I want to make this one 26.5 inches, because that way I will have 2.5 inches between the curved pieces of track. So let's put our radius in at 26.5, and we'll hit enter. It says enter an integer between 1 and 90. Well, what I did here is I broke a rule. And that rule is you can't bend a piece of track more than 90 degrees. So what we have to do, hit OK, come back, and we have to take that 99.53 and we have to divide it by 2. And that gives us an angle of 49.765 degrees. So let's type that in, 49 point. And I don't think AnyRail will accept more than 2 digits to the right of the decimal point. So let's round that 765 to 77. Hit enter. And there we go. And now we need to copy that because we need 2 pieces of that to make our curve. And we're going to put them together. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take this end. We'll select it. And we're going to rotate it to 270 degrees so it lines up on this line here. Now remember, it's 270 degrees because we're going from left to right. So let's put in 270. That flips it around. And it's starting to look like a curve there, doesn't it? All right. Now once again, we're going to line this piece of track, the end up, to this. So let's go look at that. And we see we have a Y of 130 and 15/16. So let's copy that. Let's come down here. Let's select this endpoint. Might help if we zoom in a little bit. And we're going to paste in that value. Hit enter. And now it pops down. All right. Now here's where it gets a little weird. And let's get our layers back. Let's turn off that image. Lose layers again. Let's go to center line. Now, I can nudge this piece of track over and try and find the tangent point. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. In a lot of cases like this, what I find is it's easier to come down and cut your curve somewhere down in this area here, and then drag this piece of track back and then hit smooth flex. And it kind of will give you a better curve into it, especially when you're working with a switch like this. So let's go up here. Let's move our piece of track over. And, oh, let me do one thing first. Let's take this guy, and let's take this guy, and let's make them a section. It'll give them a color. It makes it easier to see. We'll make it an orange color here. All right. Now let's come back here. And let's zoom in. We're going to hold down the Shift key so we move in small increments. And that looks like we're on it right there. Let's deselect it. That looks pretty good. All right, let's zoom back out. Let's try cutting it like right here. We'll cut the flex right there. Disconnect it. Drag that out of the way. Now we know that this is a 26.5-inch radius curve. So let's grab this end. We can do this here because we're not making it fold back on itself. Let's do that. Now let's select it. Hit smooth flex. And what do we get? We get 25 3/8 of an inch. That's not bad. I can live with that. So let's take this guy. Let's drag him back. And we'll connect him up. Let's look at him. He says he's 939 5/8 inch radius, which is, again, pretty much a straight piece of track. Now, why does it have a curve in it when we set the endpoints to the same Y value? I don't know, but it does. And anyway, it's almost 940 inch radius, so I'm not going to worry about that. All right, so let's put in the other track. We'll zoom out a little bit. He says, let's move this guy out of the way. Now, let's take this and we're going to add a parallel piece of track. Now we want, this is 26.5-inch radius, and we want the other one to be 2.5. So as you can see, we're going to move it up 2.5 inches, and we're putting it above this piece of track. So we'll hit OK. And we're going to copy this guy. And we're going to add him right here. All right. Let's work with this piece up here first. Let's go grab another piece of flex. Let's cut it. And you can see we're almost on the tangent point there. But we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut it down here somewhere so that this track just sort of curves right in. So let's cut it, say, let's try right there, just to start. We'll delete that, pull this piece out of the way. We'll bring him over there, if I can speak properly. We'll hit smooth flex. What do we got? 30 7/16. So that's coming in and is forming a 30 7/16 inch curve right there into our 24-inch curve there. So that looks pretty nice. Let's go over here. Let's grab this guy. We're going to cut him. Delete it. We're going to drag this one down. Now we're going to do that straight flex idea. And we're just, yeah, that looks good. 6 1/8. Put him right there. Not on this end. We're going to put him on this end here. Now we're going to drag him over. Straight line, so hold down the shift. And I'm going to cut him here because we don't want too bad of an S curve here. Let's see what we get. Smooth it. Oh, that didn't work. All right. This is one of those, sometimes you have to play around with it a little bit to make it work. Let's move it back to here. Cut it there. 22 7/8. Let's smooth it, see if we can get it better. 37 3/8. We'll leave it at that. This is just for demonstration purposes. You would probably want to play around with this and move this point a little bit and keep trying to smooth the flex until you get it to look like you want it to look. So let's zoom out. Let's go back to track so we can see what it looks like. And there we go. We've got our passing siding on the corner. Now we can put in a small piece of flex there. Come up here, cut it, delete it, and you'll notice I grabbed it accidentally. So let's undo that. Zoom in a little bit. Grab it. Drag it over here. I'm going to pull it down, the end point down. Let them connect. Hover over it. Says it's just 3 1/4 inches long, but it has no radius. So it's a straight piece of track. And then for here, we'll just take this guy, connect him up, grab the end, connect it. Says it has a minimum radius of 1,525 inches. So again, it's a straight piece of track. And there you go. Let's put the image back in real fast. And you'll notice where I have problems. There, I got a tunnel right there, and I got a tunnel right there. I don't like that. So like I said, I'm going to have to mess with this. Another thing I've been thinking about is I've been thinking about just pulling this switch way back, maybe putting it here, making this a very long passing siding. Nice thing about CAD, I can do that. And if I don't like it, I can just Control Z out of it or bring up a previously stored version of the drawing. Now I'm going to admit to a mistake I made long ago. When I made this scan of the drawing, I made an error when I printed it and then saved it to use in AnyRail. I accidentally cut off part of the drawing up here. And if you'll notice up here in this corner, this is one of the things I was talking about earlier. You'll notice how close I am to the wall. In fact, let's add a ruler. I'm going to make that ruler, I'd like it to be 3 inches from the wall, so let's make that ruler 3 inches, and let's make it vertical. Let's drag it down. And you'll notice, that would be 1.5 inches there, so it's maybe 1 inch from the wall. So when I start working on this drawing again, for real, I'm going to use a new version of this image that I made up. And I'm going to offset it a little bit so I get 3 inches from the wall all the way around. I'd like 3 inches down here. I think it's going to be 3 inches down there. We can find out. Let's grab our ruler. And sure enough, it looks like it's 3 inches. This is a handy thing to do. You can take these rulers and you can just build a couple of rulers into your drawing. So now I've got one that's 3 inches in vertical, one that's 3 inches in horizontal, and I can just drag them around. And as you can see, I'm probably maybe 2 inches from the wall here. So I'd want to shove it a little bit to the right. So that's a pretty handy thing to be able to do. Okay, so I showed you how to build a passing siding in this corner here. And building passing sidings on curves, it's really, really hard for me. It's not something that I find that's easy to do. But this actually does not look too bad. So let's stop here. And then I think we'll follow this video up with another one. And we'll put in these S-curves over here. Those are kind of nice swoopy-doopy lines over here. And then maybe we'll do a little bit of track work out here or in this area here, just for demonstration purposes. So I hope this video was helpful, and hopefully I didn't bore you too much, and hopefully you learned something from this. So we'll see you in the next one.